Hi, I'm Casey Anderson, a program manager on the Visual Studio Diagnostics team. You likely use breakpoints as part of your everyday debugging in Visual Studio. In this video today, I'm going to show you improvements we've made to configuring breakpoint settings in Visual Studio 2015. So let's jump straight into Visual Studio and take a look. In this demo, I have a shared library that's used between client and server code. What I want to do is I've written some tests that will test this for me before I continue developing my application. So I'm going to run the test now. When I run the tests, I see that my web test has passed, my mobile test has passed, but my desktop test has failed. So to debug this problem, I'm going to go into where this code is being called and set a breakpoint. Now, I could just put a breakpoint here and continue hitting it until I get to decoded type equals desktop because my web and mobile are already passing. But instead of doing that, I'm going to set a conditional breakpoint when decoded type equals desktop. So on this line of code, I click in the margin to set my breakpoint, and you'll notice this toolbar appear. This is new in Visual Studio 2015. There are two things you can do on this toolbar. You can enable and disable a breakpoint, as well as open breakpoint settings, which I'm going to do now. You see that breakpoint settings window opens inside peek, meaning that it doesn't cover up any of your code, and you can leave it open while you're debugging. You can also see that you can have the location of your breakpoint is listed here. There's also conditions and actions. Previously, these were in separate modal dialogues, but now we've combined them into this easy breakpoint settings window. There are three types of conditions that you can apply to a breakpoint. There's a filter condition, which is good for multi-threading. You can filter by machine name, process, or thread. There's also a hit count condition. You can set hit count to a specific number. This is really good when you're encountering an error in loops. If it happens on, say, the 105th iteration, you can set hit count equal to 105, and that will stop only on that iteration. The next type is conditional expression, which is what we want in this case. We want decoded type to equal desktop. So you can see that I get IntelliSense when I start typing here. And you can type in anything in this line that evaluates to a Boolean variable. For example, decoded type equals desktop. Now I can hit enter to commit this, and I can clearly see that this has been saved, meaning that I could hit enter to close the window if I wanted, or start debugging right now with the window open, and this breakpoint would only be hit when this condition is true. I want to show you actions too. So we have one action in Visual Studio for breakpoints right now, which is log a message to the output window. There are three types of text that you can put to log the message. You can put plain text, which will be printed as is. So this would print hello. You can put text inside of curly braces. Inside of curly braces, you can put expressions that will be evaluated. So decoded type will evaluate and print out the actual decoded type, desktop, web, mobile in this case. The last thing you can put in here is pseudo variables. We have a supply of pseudo variables here for you, and you type $sign to access those. For example, if I had function here, this would print the name of the function that this breakpoint is being hit inside. So plain text, curly braces to evaluate expressions, and $sign for pseudo variables. You'll also notice that there's this box that says continue execution. When this box is checked, the debugger will print this to the output window and then continue execution, meaning that it won't stop. And it turns into a diamond shape to signify that this breakpoint will not stop. But I want the breakpoint to be hit, so I'm going to remove my action and close this window and run my tests again to see what happens. When I ran my tests again, I hit the breakpoint, and if I hover over decoded type, I can see that decoded type equals desktop. So I'm stopped at the right location. Now I want to see what's going on. First, I want to make sure that there are actually applications of type desktop inside my data set. So I can now put this lambda expression in the immediate window, data.applications.select a in a.apptype.distinct, and I can hit enter, and this will be evaluated in the immediate window. Lambda expressions also work in the watch windows. And I can see here that I have type desktop in my data set, and I have type desktop here. But now I see the issue. This desktop is lowercase, and this desktop is uppercase. So if I want to allow this to fix my issue, I can edit this lambda expression in my code and then continue. So I can type system string comparison ordinal ignore case, and I notice I'm doing edit and continue, and so I save this and run my tests again, or continue. Yep, my tests now pass. Well, that's all the time we have for now, so I'd like to encourage you to download Visual Studio 2015 and let us know what you think about the changes for breakpoint settings. You can always find detailed information about all our new features on our diagnostics blog and communicate with us via Twitter at @VS_debugger. Thanks for watching!